Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. That is Jack. I am Conrad, and this is the 45. Last week we were late on Week 11 wrap-up. This time we are early with Week 12 wrap-up because we've got midweek matches for Week 13 starting on Tuesday. It is now Sunday. All 10 games have been played. 4 title favorites dropped points. You have Spurs, Liverpool, Chelsea, Man City. Man United and Arsenal also dropped points, not in the same class as those other 4. Certainly not an ill-disciplined, leaderless Arsenal. Meanwhile, chasing pack and some of the relegation-threatened sides pulled points off of those big 6 clubs. And yet another odd weekend in what is kind of an odd Premier League season.
Yeah, we walked into this week knowing that it was going to be one of the better weeks all year because there were so many great matches, and there was a lot of interesting matches. I think that's safe to say. A couple in here where watching was a little less pleasing than others, but it was definitely a lot to be gained from this weekend, I think. I think this weekend more than any other, we've learned about what teams are actually like. Yeah. That was the best part of the weekend.
First up, Wolves and Villa. 3 yellows to Villa in the first 30 minutes. Villa fans not happy with Mike Dean in this one. A total of 11 yellows turned into 2 reds on, towards the end of the match for accumulation. 38 fouls. A lot of criticism for Dean in this one. Normally in a derby, you're trying to control emotions, but this wasn't a super high emotion game. It was just it
was an early kickoff. Not a ton of fans there. And it was ultimately Villa just kind of scraped the points out. Very even in the XG department, 1.48 to 1.44. But the fouls kind of mentioned that how scrappy a game it was. Probably on all accounts deserved to be probably a draw for based on the account of the match. But Villa got the points. And this was huge for them because we talked about heading into the week. How would they react to having a long break, an unintended break because of some COVID games getting canceled or games getting canceled because of COVID? One match. But they did. I think they did well. Got the points. Wolves won't be too disappointed with the performance, but obviously losing points at home I think Villa and Wolves are very similar in terms of their competition, their abilities. So I think that this was a bit of a mid-table 6-pointer, I guess you could say, because these 2 sides are going to be, I think, kind of pushing it to be the sides we're saying the Arsenals, the Man Uniteds, if they fall off a bit, whatever sides struggle towards the top, they're saying, all right, we're the ones who are going to fill your places this season.
We thought it was going to be. I said could it be an ugly match, right? But ugly, I'm more on wide open defensive ugly, where the defenses weren't going to be doing much, like with a 4-3 with a late winner.
I remember you said it was ugly, and at the very end you clarified, there's going to be a lot of goals, and then
with a late scrappy winner. We got the late scrappy winner, but not the way we thought we were going to get there. No. But to Wolves' credit, they really tried to get Fabio Silva involved early and often. He did look pretty good. His full debut, 18 years old, 35 million pound transfer, deputizing for Raul Jimenez as he's recovering from the skull fracture. Good to see him in training this week, visiting the team, not obviously practicing. But Adama Traore never ceases to amaze me with that combination of strength and raw pace. Like, he shouldn't be as fast as he is. And then when players run into him, they fall down. Because he's an immovable object on the field. He's unbelievable.
It is.
But Wolves were a little wasteful. But Eddie Martinez, wow. Like good. That early stop from Podence set the tone for him. And the second half from him was absolutely spectacular.
Yeah, he's been... he's got an argument that Arsenal sold the wrong keeper because he's been phenomenal.
Arsenal have done a lot wrong, and that's one of many
his shot stopping ability is up there with almost anybody in the entire league. We talked about it when those last 9 matches with Arsenal. He had one of the best post-shot XG per 90s, I think. Really odd stat, but it showed that he was saving chances that were in good places, and he's continued to do that, and he's one of the biggest reasons they won this game. So a lot of positives for Villa to take away. Some positives. I think you mentioned Fabio Silva. He's going to be one of the next great players.
Great. Yet again, a Portuguese find.
And it's not just he hasn't scored goals yet. He hasn't had that part to his career, but he has so much else to his game at such a young age that you don't usually see that.
He's
Mason Greenwood, I think, is probably the only other player you could compare with because he's scored a lot of goals, been really successful. And I think that Silva might be more well-rounded than Greenwood. No disrespect to him, obviously. It's just a case of 2 really talented youngsters.
Wolves sit 13th on 17 points. They've got to forget this one quickly. Chelsea coming to town on Tuesday. 2 days to rest, quick turn for them, and that's a small squad, and without, it's going to be tough for them. Villa, no Douglas Luiz because there's really 2 yellows, and Matty Cash for yellow accumulation will also miss their match against Burnley. They are 10th on 18 points so far. Next up, Man United and Man City. Loud wrong. This one, loud wrong. I saw City taking this 6-0, running away with it. Solskjaer started McTominay and Fred, which signaled his satisfaction with packing it in and not putting Maguire in a situation where there's any space between him and De Gea, and he's got to run for his life. 4 total shots on target, 2 for each side. Great move to start Pogba. He looked good, but really not much he could do, Pogba, with such a defensive setup.
Yeah. Talking about Harry Maguire in specific, we made a video a couple weeks ago talking about why he's never going to be a good center back for Man United. And this match, he played really well, and that proves why he's never going to be a good center back for United, because this is not how United are supposed to play. They're not supposed to play defensively at Old Trafford. They're not supposed to sit back, pack it in, and not have much space between the keeper and the center back. That's where he's great at. He excelled at that. So having that in your locker is a good thing, but you don't want that to be your guy that you rely on. Talk about Pogba. I think he did a really good job. I'm interested to see how he handles the intense scrutiny and his future in the next couple of weeks, because ultimately I think that he does want to leave Manchester United, as much as he might say the blah, blah doesn't matter to me.
Right.
As he said on Instagram, ultimately your agent did say that, and I think you can't really escape that fact. They're going to need him to play, though. I think that Ole's going to have to swallow his pride and say we need him because we need to have talented players on the pitch at all times. I think the big fault you had in thinking City was going to do so well was because I think you underestimated how much they struggle without a proper striker like Aguero. He didn't even make the squad.
I was surprised he wasn't in the squad.
And I think they're going to have to target a striker. Maybe if it's in the same mold as a smaller, more almost not a false 9, but not a prototypical number 9. They're going to have to sign someone up front, I think, to make the transition from Aguero into the future easier, because Jesus, he wasn't great. He was okay, but ultimately he wasn't Aguero. And being Aguero is not easy. But I think City this is one of the worst City sides we've had in a long time.
This is not the same club that won 2 consecutive titles.
It's
for
not.
Sure.
And Man United, positive for them is, yes, you don't like drawing at home at Old Trafford and playing for a draw at Old Trafford, but City are still a bit better than you. And getting this point is good to kind of push you forward now into the busy winter schedule to try and get some points. Because as we saw, as you mentioned, the lead, there's a lot of teams that dropped points. They're not out of a title race if they can just get it together. Do they have a talent for a title race? We don't believe that they do. But say they get a good run of form into January, and then, I don't know, maybe Woodward just wakes up as a different person and decides, let's spend some money, make some acquisitions. They have still a lot of potential for this season. And this result shows that they've got the defensive know-how. But it's just, why is it in this match they can do that? But when they needed a draw against Leipzig with 5 at the back, they couldn't do it. They conceded 3. So there's so many questions about why Man United are struggling right now. Same with City. And I think that, if I'm being quite honest with you, after this performance, I think there are 4 or 5 teams that I think are better poised to place better in the Premier League this season. I would not be surprised if neither Manchester clubs finish in the top 4. Could they change it? Of course. But that's just how I see it right now.
Well, I think so. Both managers claim mutual respect come out of this match, right? Ole saying best match we've played against United since against City since I've been here. Pep saying a lot of respect for them. They're a good side. But this was a snoozer, right? But this match really sums up the seasons for both of these clubs, I think. You've got to wonder if City do have a title run in them. They've dropped 14 points in their first 11 matches right now. They are 9th on 19 points. Yeah, we said they can make a run, but it's not the same team that won 2 titles. United do not have the tactical setup to make a real title run, period, right? They have to set up with these 2 defensive mids to protect Maguire, or they go forward and risk getting exposed and then get smoked, right?
Yeah.
So they're too reliant on the individual moments of brilliance from somebody like a Bruno or a Pogba to create something wonderful for the front 3.
Yeah. They have the skeleton of a really great title-winning squad, but they've still are missing in some key areas. They don't have the manager who can kind of make the skeleton dance like a puppet or anything right now. There's no puppeteering going on. I'm interested to see how this continues, though. They've got some really good matches in the upcoming weeks, and who knows, honestly. This season's been crazy. It would be very fitting with this season if Manchester United went on and won the title.
But City, they may just look at Europe, right? Maybe to your point, go get a striker, focus on the Champions League, and just try to take that trophy home this year and not focus so much on the Premier League.
How would Olivier Giroud play at Man City?
Man City?
That'd be interesting. Wouldn't be liked by Chelsea fans or Arsenal fans.
Next up, Everton and Chelsea. Wrong again. I had Chelsea, again, 3-0. Much like City, who got healthy against the two bottom teams with 7 goals in the previous 2 matches. Chelsea have yet to win a game over a top 10 side, right? They've drawn with Liverpool. They
lost to Liverpool. They drew with Spurs and Man United, and they play Arsenal soon.
So
they are top 10, though.
I should have seen this coming as a result of that exact problem, is that they're not doing enough against these top sides. Calvert-Lewin created the chance that led to the Mendy mistake in the penalty. Sigurdsson did his best. Bruno dispatched the penalty without any issue. Ancelotti playing 4 center backs. That strategy paying off. Werner, Havertz, not very good for Chelsea. No goal for Giroud. Would have been the first in 7 straight matches for Chelsea in some time. And Lampard, after the match, laughing off Jurgen Klopp's claims that they're a title contending side. He's like, yeah, no, we're not. And Everton are just happy to get their second match win in their last 8 after such a great start to the season.
Chelsea definitely spent like title contenders, but you mentioned the big issue. Werner and Havertz struggling in a match where you lost 1-0 away from home. Havertz is a supremely talented footballer, and he's going through a rough spell.
I take him some time.
I take him some time. I remember João Felix last year was really poor after a 9-digit transfer to Atletico Madrid. This season he's been phenomenal, one of the best players in La Liga. Same thing's going to happen with Havertz, I believe. He's going to take a year to probably adapt to the Premier League, to a whole new environment. Because if you think about it, also, these are young guys who are moving to an entirely different country. They have all these different challenges. So
never mind pandemic on top of all of
exactly. And he had COVID-19, and according to reports, he had it pretty tough. Like, he was bedridden for a couple weeks because he had the severe case of it. So there are reasons to not be panicked about your investment in Havertz yet. But I think that Werner has been up and down, and I think that's what you expect from Werner. So you hope that the highs get a bit better and the lows are a bit more modulated a little bit less. But Everton deserved this. I think they played very, very well. Sigurdsson's penalty, you mentioned Bruno'd it. It was like if Bruno and Jorginho made the perfect penalty, because he was like so calm. He just walked up to it, just kind of like little trot and just passed right past Mendy. But you mentioned Calvert-Lewin did a great job with his hold-up play, his flick onto himself pretty much. He's doing a great job at not only adding a bit more to just being a pure finisher to his game. And so Chelsea, you wonder, how good are they? And I think that they haven't beaten a good side yet. They have, I believe, Wolves, West Ham, and Arsenal. Maybe not that specific order, but they have those as their upcoming matches. If they can get 9 points from that, I think that my current criticism of them of being unable to beat good sides would be go away. But for right now, they think they still have a lot to prove. And Lampard has done a good job with this squad. But if you can't beat the sides that are at your level or a bit lower, and you can only beat the ones who you should be beating, questions can start being asked.
So right now, where are we? Chelsea are still, where do we got them here? Chelsea third, 22 points. Everton 7th on 20 points.
Surprising Everton in 7th because they have been poor for so long.
Two wins in their last 8. After they had such a good start.
And that's what every side. Remember last year, a lot of our discussion was about, well, just win a couple matches and you're shooting up the table. Same thing goes here this early on in the season.
Very tight still.
Just get a few matches under your belt, a few wins, and things can rapidly improve.
Next up, London Derby, Palace and Spurs. Guaita he had that first half howler, but man of the match performance from that point on, helping Palace take the point at Selhurst. Wasn't a pretty goal for Palace, kind of just bundle it over the line, but they'll take it. Son and Kane doing what Son and Kane do, but not enough. Spurs are slowing down a little bit. They had 15 goals in their first 5 matches, just 9 in their last 7 matches. It's hard not to look back at that Man United side where Mourinho was, where they opened the season scoring for fun, and then he kind of started to pull the reins back as he implemented his low block. The same thing, I'm not sure, it's too early to say if it's happening here, but they're more talented than that United side were, this Spurs team are. I would argue.
Definitely, no, you're totally right.
And he's going to have to give them more leash, I think, if he really wants to stay at the top. Because I don't think you can play that four-line tight for an entire season and get enough goals to win.
Yeah. Lester said he would disagree with you a little bit because they did it, but that was a very one-off
weird
scenario.
season. Yeah. They had weak. I shouldn't say weak, but the top six weren't as good at that point.
Was
it was
a
just
weird
a strange season.
It was a very weird season.
Leicester, don't take it away. They were great.
Yeah. Palace deserved the points, definitely. Tough to call it a howler for Graite. It was a dipping shot. It was some swerve on it. Shouldn't be conceded.
Got a hand on it.
Down the middle of the goal, you shouldn't be conceding that necessarily.
He was moving the wrong direction.
But I think Spurs, we've mentioned it a couple weeks now where we've said that they've been the XG, other things like that, hasn't been in their favor. They've been maybe scraping a few results.
What was the XG on this one? 187 to Palace, 158 Spurs. So it's flat. Right?
A pretty good amount, actually, for Spurs compared to recent weeks in terms of creating chances. But again, Graite was just out of his mind in between the sticks.
Unbelievable.
And so I don't think Spurs will be too disappointed. And same thing I'd say to Liverpool with their draw against Fulham, also away from home, is it sucks to have this performance against the side you should be beating, but now you have, in just a few days' time, a match to rebound, prove that you're actually a title contender, and try and win that match and put yourselves back on top of the league with some actual firm standing. So they won't be too concerned, I don't think, with this result. I think the only thing that is to watch out for long-term is these types of matches for Spurs. Man United were always good against the bigger sides in that season you mentioned, but it would be the Palaces of the world where they would kind of show up and they would not really know what to do. They're caught between two minds. Do we use our talent and be a bit more expressive, or do we play the more comfortable way and sit back? It's a question Mourinho's going to have to answer. Has he learned in those many years? I think he probably has. Remains to be seen, though.
So right now, Palace are 11th on 17 points. So Spurs feel better about this draw than Liverpool feel about the draw with Fulham for sure, being a bottom three club. But right now, Spurs are top of the table, 25 points above Liverpool on goal difference, and they play on Wednesday. It'll be interesting to see how Mourinho adapts his tactics for that one. Finally, for us this weekend, Arsenal and Burnley. This is the Arsenal team we remember, right? Creating chances, doing interesting things, fans in the stands, and then Xhaka did Xhaka, yeah. And that's the Xhaka that we remember. Fans started to leave early and just not watch. This guy has got to be going viral everywhere. So they flash to the stands and watching the Arsenal fans go up, and then they flash to this guy, and both of us look at one another like, oh, that guy he's going to be everywhere.
Because he exemplifies what Arsenal are doing. They've got the fans back. They're trying to stop the pandemic.
It was a library in that place.
It was quite quiet, but I mean, I can't really blame them. This has been a poor Arsenal side, and we're very supportive of Arteta. You and I are, but there have to be questions that are asked.
They have no on-pitch leadership at all.
What did we say as the last bit of last week's show? We said the definition of insanity is trying the same thing over and over again without changing it, expecting things to change. Things haven't been changing. He's still playing Willian instead of some youngsters. Bellerin is still playing a right back. He's suspended now for the next match. He's still playing Xhaka and El Neni in the midfield. He's
El Neni.
What I've talked about in the past is if you're gonna be crap, be crap and young. Right now they're crap.
At least get something out of it.
They're crap, and they have just these middling players. And Xhaka. They also showed a stat on NBC that they have 6 red cards compared to 3 since Arteta took over, and it's
next closest club.
3, yeah, it's embarrassing, is what it is. It's unacceptable, and I understand that the appeal of Xhaka is that he's a very aggressive footballer. Which if I was on the field with him, I'd be pretty scared of him because he's just that kind of dude.
But he's not a leader at the same time.
But you gotta hone it in. We'll talk about Burnley in a second, but one thing on Arsenal is I loved Kieran Tierney's response. He said, we deserve to be booed because they came out to support us and we let them down. And that's a stark difference to Xhaka. When he got booed, it was more directed booing at him, but he said bad things and he threw his shirt.
We thought he was done at the club then. And I think he very well will be done at the club now.
It's tough to say because they don't have enough talent to really justify not having him around.
I think you got to make it. Arteta's got to make a statement here.
That being said, for Burnley, in their credit, I think they deserve this match. The XG says otherwise, 2.02 for Arsenal, 1.15 for Burnley. But they defended pretty well up until the red card. Then they decided this was our moment, and I was really happy to see that they decided to take the onus onto Arsenal and ultimately relied on a Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang nice flicked header into his own net. Finally broke his duck in the wrong net. I think that this was a really good performance for Burnley. Huge 3 points. They've been struggling this year so far, and they'll be very ecstatic with that. And back to Arsenal a little bit. I think that the shouts of Arteta out are going to be pretty loud right now. And it's justified. We've said last several weeks they've had bad performances, but he's the man going forward. You got to trust him. But he's not changing things. And yeah, he hasn't had good recruitment. Yeah, all these things have gone wrong for him. He's got players who are ill-disciplined, and there's a lot of issues in the locker room. They turned on Emery. They're going to turn on him now. At the same time, change your tactics, man. Do something differently. Well, Willian at right wing is painful. He was okay today, but he's been painful.
He's a super sub.
And Aubameyang, you have to figure out a way to get stuff out of him. He deserves some
it's the midfield
some slack as well. But ultimately, if Mesut Ozil is not even registered for the Premier League,
and come January 1, if they don't register,
you deserve to have questions asked. When you are 20th in chances created, they don't create chances. They are a boring side to watch. I'm not surprised they sound like a library at the Emirates.
Like in the 60th minute, right? We were like, they're creating a lot of opportunities. They were blazing up the right side. They had a couple of crosses, a couple of opportunities. Then it was a little bit earlier than that because the 58th minute, Xhaka goes old school Xhaka, grabs Westwood by the throat. El Neni, lucky to not get tossed as well because he puts two hands to the face of Tarkowski in the box before the corner is in play. That leads to the Aubameyang getting back on the score sheet with the own goal. 6 reds under Arteta, twice as many as any other club. Pepe out of this game due to the headbutt. No creativity, no discipline. Arteta has got to get control of this club.
I agree.
Or he's done.
Yeah.
And can he turn the club over in January?
I don't know. But you're 15th. You're really bad. And you need to change things around. And for the life of me, right, these are footballers who are far more athletically gifted and talented than we will ever be. But I don't understand how you headbutt a man, how you grab someone by the neck when there are literally probably about 30 cameras around the stadium just zoomed in on your faces on what you're doing, and they're reviewing. Oh, is this guy going to do a bad thing? Is he gonna slap someone? Is he gonna grab them by the neck?
How did El Neni not get tossed?
That was the one positive for them today, is that they remained with 10 men.
God. So, but again, Burnley full 3 points, huge for Dyche in the club, out of the drop zone into 17th place. Just 4 points behind Arsenal, who sit 15th. Excuse me.
One last thing that I want to hit on before we go is Leeds United have 1 extra point than Arsenal, and they're not talked about in the same way, where it's panic town and it's struggling. Yeah, Arsenal are a embedded Premier League club, but the season's not over, and I do ultimately believe that Arteta is the best man that they could get right now, unless you went and got Mauricio Pochettino, which that would be one of the biggest.
Yeah, that would end up here. He ends up at United.
Yeah, that would be stunning because he obviously. North London rivals. I think that they got to get a result. They have Southampton at home next.
And that's not going to be easy.
We said it. Burnley at home. Got to get a win. I think the pressure might get so heavy from the fans if they lose that match. Another one at home. Lost 4 straight at home. First time since 1959 that's happened.
And the first win for Burnley over Arsenal in 50 years. We thought Burnley had a shot at this.
Breaking records in a really bad way.
Not the way you want to
If it makes it 5 matches at home without a win, I may have to abandon my boy Arteta and say the boys got to get out of the club.
What a weekend. And now we're heading into midweek. Week 13.
We're getting those ads on NBC where it's like 17 days, 40 games.
40 matches in 17 games.
I'm very excited.
17 days. It's going to be great. And there's a lot of injury, a lot of intrigue, a lot of angry supporters who can't go to games, and those that do go end up leaving early, and that poor guy who put the mask over his face. But that'll do it for Week 12 wrap-up. We will be back in a day with a Week 13 preview. Jack, Conrad, this has been The 45. Please comment. Please subscribe. Please like what you see. Let us know what you think. Look for us on the Twitter at The 45. Take care now.